Hey friends, this is Brad Apple, and this is my buddy Adam Fudge. Today he's going to talk to us about seeing Tony Rice, Dan Crary, Mark O'Connor, and others at Winfield, Kansas in the 1980s.
Winfield, let's see, I first went to Winfield in 1981. I went there from 1981 till 87, and it was different than what it is now. I mean, you'd see the iconic figures back then. That was the first time I got to see Tony Rice, was in '83, and that was one of the first shows, if I'm not mistaken, that White Rice played with Tony. So it was Tony and White Rice, John Reichman, and Todd Phillips, and it was quite an experience. That was. They were releasing Backwaters almost. Well, I mean, it was very shortly. If it wasn't already released, they were about to. But yeah, he was debuting his Backwaters album primarily. He didn't sing a vocal number all weekend. It was all instrumentals. But I was sitting there trying to take all this in. Back then, we didn't have the internet other than the album covers. We barely even knew what these guys looked like, and we weren't seeing them on TV. And the first time I saw Tony Rice on stage live, I couldn't believe that he was getting his right hand technique. What a mechanism his right hand was. He was rolling that thumb and index finger. I thought, there's no way he can do that. And I was just spellbound. Get to see one of the legends. And I might add, he was in his peak long about that time. I don't know that he ever played any better. And it was interesting to get to see, workshops and all that. The workshop was Dan Crary, Tony Rice, Dudley Murphy, and Mark O'Connor. And everybody was expecting to see some kind of bloodbath. Those guys were pretty competitive. But it wasn't that at all. Tony, he was a real class act. He just answered people's questions and just played it cool. He just played basically the melody to everything. He played tunes like Gold Rush and Jerusalem Ridge and, such as that. Some of the stuff off the Church Street Blues album. But, yeah, he was not showboating at all. But Mark O'Connor, on the other hand, was flashing everybody's eyes out. And I think all the guitar players that were entering the contest wanted to see them cut each other's heads. It didn't turn out that way at all. Tony just played it cool. He was playing an Adamas 12-string acoustic electric, and getting 30-second note runs on it. I couldn't believe that. I mean, of course, he's a prodigy, no doubt about it. He was playing circles around everybody else, but Tony's I'm sure, we're not coming in this thing as a competition. But all the gunslingers out in the crowd, they were whooping and hollering. O'Connor was their boy in that little show. But,
people want Tony to sing during his set?
Yes, they kept hollering for him to sing and everything, and he just blew it off. But he finally explained to everybody, look, if you're expecting to hear me sing this weekend, you're going to be disappointed because we're debuting my Backwaters album. We're playing acoustic jazz, basically. I don't really have an ensemble here that I feel comfortable doing vocal numbers with. So I'm not going to do it, basically. But, it was good to see those guys. So, like I said, we didn't have the internet back then, in 1983. So we barely even knew what the guys looked like. But it was a real treat to get to see the legends like that play live.
Talk about the sound of Reichman's mandolin.
Oh, my goodness, man. It was, that mandolin is very unique, even among the Lloyd Loar series of F5s, the master model. It was very balanced. It had a sweetness of tone. very wide tone. And of course, John's technique enhanced all that. And they had good sound techs at that festival. They knew what all these acoustic instruments were supposed to sound like. They really did. I was thankful for that. And I've got some cassette tapes I record on of all things, this little Pioneer boombox. I need to see if they'll even still play. But see, they had I think back then 4 different stages, and they did an afternoon show and over at another stage, and the equipment wasn't nearly as good as at the grand stage. And they had basically a knob jockey out there trying to anticipate everybody's solo instead of leaving it alone, letting the guys handle the dynamics from the stage. And it kept cracking and popping, and you know, Tony was visibly upset. He really was. But they finally got it lined out, but it was too late. He was already upset with the whole development. Yeah, I was just standing out there in the crowd. This fellow walks up. Who's this band here? And I turn around and look, you know, it's Todd Phillips, you know. I said, well, I don't really know, Todd. It was one of the, you know, lesser known bands. He said, well, they're really good. And I got talking to him. I said, Tony seemed a little upset. You know, did your afternoon show? He said, oh yeah. He said he was pretty pissed off. He's back at the motel room right now, probably sulking. You know, he said he'll be like that the rest of the day. But they really put on it was tremendous acoustic music the guys played. I mean, to see somebody play to that level, and considering, you know, they're out there in the heat. It was really hot that day, even though it was September. But the thing about Kansas, you know, it can be 90 degrees during the day, and as soon as that sun sets, you can see your breath. And they played equally well at the evening show, even though it was cold. And I thought, man, these guys are pros. But Winfield was a completely different thing then, you know. I entered the banjo contest from 1981 till 87. I never won it. I got second twice and third twice. But now at least one of the guys that I placed behind, it was no disgrace. Dan Crary one year did a solo act the whole weekend. He played Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. And I don't recall him repeating a tune twice. He did a little bit of singing, but I thought, man, this guy, he's got nerves of steel. Stand out there, you know, in the play. You got all these professional grade guitarists watching you. You know, all the contestants. That used to be. It was a big deal, man, especially for guitar. All these guys sitting there watching every move you make, and I don't remember hearing him make a mistake all weekend. He was in top form then, you know, Dan was. But man, he was playing all those, you know, Celtic fiddle tunes, and his arrangements, things like Devil's Dream and all that, you know, man, any number of other things. But yeah, that's a higher level of musicianship for a man to sit there and flat pick for an hour a set, yeah, and never repeat the same tune twice all weekend. He had quite a repertoire. Yeah, that was another deal. Other than the album covers, we barely knew what those guys looked like. That was when he was a quartet. It was David Grisman, Darrell Anger, Mike Marshall, who had by then was playing guitar with him, and Rob Wasserman. And the level of energy, I can't even describe it to you. You just have to hear it. That was unbelievable what those guys could do. Yeah, I think Mark O'Connor had just left him. He'd had a injury due to a skiing accident. I think he'd got a broken arm out of the deal. And Mike just switched over playing guitar. I'd never heard him play guitar. I was blown away. I mean, I thought, man, this guy can do it all, you know. But he hadn't been playing the guitar slot just a couple of 3 months, I think, at that point. And, you know, playing all these intricate arrangements and everything, you know, that Grisman drilled him on. But, yeah, that's some real musicians there.